I was around 12 years old when this event took place. I lived with my mom and things were going really well until she got a job offer far away from where we lived. It was a 6-month contract and it paid well, so she couldn't say no. The only problem, I couldn't go with her. The job required her to move around a lot and I was too young to live alone, so a friend of hers helped her find a babysitter. Let's call the babysitter Lucy. She was a young girl, just out of high school and now attending a nearby university. My mom let her move into our house with her things and even stayed an extra night to make sure I was okay with Lucy. They made small talk and I remember Lucy telling my mom,
"Some of my classmates are into witchcraft. I would never involve myself in stuff like that."
My mom really liked her. She figured I'd be fine. The next day, as my mom was getting ready to leave, I handed her our Bible and said,
"Take this with you. It'll keep you safe."
She smiled and gave it back. "No, you keep it, so it can keep you safe." But just before she left, I secretly slipped it into her luggage. Looking back now, I feel like something bad was going to happen to one of us. And I think it happened to me, because I didn't keep the Bible. A couple of weeks went by. Things were okay, except for a few strange occurrences. Lucy slept in my room, and a few times I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of her praying. But it didn't really sound like praying, more like chanting. She kept repeating things like,
"Deliver me from evil and the snares of the devil."
It was during one of these nights that deafening, wrong, twisted. I stood frozen as they laughed harder and harder, until suddenly, without realizing it, I started laughing too. It hurt, my side ached, I couldn't breathe. I fell to my knees, clutching my stomach, gasping for air, still laughing. The laughter wouldn't stop, and then everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in the hospital. My family gathered around me. My mother burst into tears the moment she saw me awake. She kissed my forehead over and over, whispering that the prayers had worked. I asked her what had happened. She told me, "That morning I stood up out of bed. My body arched backwards, my hands clawed through the air. I was on my tiptoes, my mouth wide open, and tears pouring down my face. And then I collapsed. As the doctor called my mother away, my grandmother and aunt followed her. And suddenly, it was just me and my grandpa. He leaned down, gave me the warmest smile he'd ever given me, and whispered, 'Did you laugh your heart out, little darling?'
After a while of messing with the apps, we got a lot of stereotypical responses that were most likely programmed into the apps. We eventually got bored and went to do something else. After a while, it was time to go to bed, and we slept in the living room. After being asleep for a bit, I woke up to my friend getting up and heading to the restroom, thinking nothing of it. I sat there, trying to go back to sleep. When she came back, we talked for a bit. Here's where it gets weird. But 5 minutes later, I heard the bathroom faucet turn on full blast. Keep in mind that I live in a small house with thin walls, so everything echoes and it can be clearly heard. So I got up, thinking I was imagining it. But when I got to the bathroom, I was indeed correct on what I had heard. Weirded out, I came back to my friend and asked if she had left the faucet on. She responded no, and said that she for sure remembered turning it off. Confused, I knew it wasn't my sister or my parents because, for one, my parents have their own bathroom connected to their room and only use that one. And second of all, I knew it wasn't my sister because I would have heard the creaking of the floorboards and the distinct walking. After a while, my friend and I just shrugged it off, thinking we could think about it more in the morning. Morning came, and my friend had woken me up. We talked about the faucet, and after a while, she told me with a nervous look on her face,
"Last night, I woke up around 4 a.m. to a weird feeling, like someone else besides you had entered the room. And when I looked around, I saw a shadowy figure looking at you, standing right in front of you. I was too scared to wake you up, so I hid under my blankets, and when I checked again, it was gone, and I've been awake since then."
Terrified, I tried to debunk it any way I could, but she was adamant on what she saw. When my parents woke up, we told them what we saw, but of course they didn't believe us. Ever since then, I've heard weird things, like my sister whispering, calling my name at night, and when I check, no one's there. And I've seen orbs and figures of white or black dash around my room and into the walls. And finally, I felt my bed compress while I'm laying down on my side, like someone sat down right beside me on the edge of my bed. I want to tell my family, but I know they won't believe me, and I'm really not sure what to do. I'm scared that it will all escalate to be more violent. To be honest, I think we angered a spirit or something that night. My name is Celeste, and this happened when I was 11. To make things easier, I'm mixed. I look a little younger than I was, and I have coily black hair. At the time, I was homeschooled, and I loved biking to the beach. It was around 9:30 in the morning, and I was sitting in my living room. My mom called me on my cell phone. Hello? Hey, baby, could you sweep up the living room and dining room? Also, I need to talk to you when I get home. Okay, Mommy. I swept up the rooms and waited in the living room for my mom to come home and tell me what it was. She came in the house, told me to sit down. She had then begun to tell me my cat had escaped our house last night and had gotten hit by a car. To clarify, my cat was orange with a bit of a tuxedo pattern. And of course, I started crying. I mean, who wouldn't? My companion just got hit by a car. My mom told me his body was in the backyard, and I had asked to look, but my mom said,
No, you won't be able to get the image out of your head.
I decided to look anyways. It was gory. One of his eyes was out of its socket, his tongue sticking out. A couple of hours later, when my brother got home, I decided to bike to the beach to get my mind off the things. My bike is a real coral color, a beach cruiser. So I'm biking to the beach, and a homeless man walks by me. Got any change? He said. I responded, Sorry, my mom told me not to talk to strangers. Which she did tell me. He seemed a little pissed off at my answer. I didn't care. I just wanted to swim my thoughts away. So I spend around 2 to 3 hours at the beach, just swimming and making friends. I decided to bike back home as it was getting dark and I was starting to get hungry. As I'm biking home, I get the feeling someone was watching me, but I ignored it because I was already shaken up by the recent events and I did not need that for myself right now. So I bike home, get changed, take a shower, eat dinner, and I go to bed. I wake up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water. I get pretty thirsty at night, so I'm walking to the kitchen and I look through the window. I see someone, a human, rushing through my backyard, rummaging through some things. My 11-year-old mind thought that maybe it was just an animal, so I get my water and I head back to sleep. The next morning, we were going to bury my cat. So I go outside to make sure that the shovel is in the backyard, and I go to check on my cat's body, and it's gone. I am freaked out, panicked. Where is my cat? How did it disappear? I go into my dad's office and tell him, Dad, did you guys bury Jon Snow yet?
No? Why?
Jon Snow isn't in the box anymore.
You looked?
Well, yeah.
Last month in July, I was in San Diego for a softball tournament and had rented a trailer to stay in with some of my friends. We would ride our scooters back and forth to each other's trailers. Keep that in mind for some context. On the second day of the tournament, I went back to my trailer to shower after my game. Out of nowhere, I heard a loud bang on the right side of the wall, which faced the outside of the trailer. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my brother playing around. As I got out of the shower, I got a text from one of my friends asking me to ride my scooter over to their trailer and bring a wiffle ball bat so we could play. I grabbed everything and started riding over. While I was riding, I heard a cough, almost like a smoker's cough, coming from the bushes. Startled, I stopped and stared at the bush. A dirty, middle-aged man rose from the bush, smirking at me in a really unsettling, creepy way. Without hesitating, I sped away on my scooter and didn't look back. I finally made it to my friend's trailer and we started playing wiffle ball. At one point, I was up to bat and hit a foul ball into the bushes. We searched for the ball for about an hour, but couldn't find it and eventually gave up. Just as we were turning to leave, the ball rolled right up to my ankle. I turned around and saw the same man I had seen earlier. We all screamed ran inside the trailer and told the adults. Unfortunately, they didn't believe us and thought we were playing a prank. Later, my family and I went back to our trailer, but I couldn't stop thinking about the man. Exhausted, I eventually fell asleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke up for no apparent reason and tried to get back to sleep. Before I continue, I need to explain that near the head of my bed, there's a tiny window with small curtains. I noticed a little light outside and moved the curtains to look out. What I saw next horrified me. The man from the bushes was standing outside, shining a flashlight near my window. I'm pretty sure he saw me because the moment I looked, he sprinted to the window, pressed his face against the glass, and started pounding on it. He was making weird noises and chanting. One thing he said still gives me chills to this day. He looked me in the eyes and started yelling.
He will get you. He knows where you are, and you can't hide from him.
Over and over again. I screamed as loudly as I could, waking my parents and alerting the park rangers. My parents rushed into the room, and the park rangers tackled the man outside. We called the police, who arrested him. It turned out he was a child predator who had been stalking me the entire time we were staying in the trailer park. To this day, I still wonder what might have happened if I hadn't woken up in time. My name is Bianca, and I live in Kenya. I'm 15 years old, but this story happened 2 years ago. It's something I'll never forget. My family decided to take a trip to the coast in Mombasa. I was with some of my cousins and siblings, and after about a week, we decided to visit the beach. We stayed until sunset, and then our parents told my oldest cousin to drive us home at 9 p.m. while they went to a club nearby. Everyone was doing their own thing at the beach. I was with my cousin, let's call her Jane. Jane was my favorite cousin, and we got along like best friends. As we walked along the sand, I noticed something on the ground. It was 1,000 shillings, a lot of money in Kenya. Excited, I picked it up. Jane and I decided to keep the money a secret, not telling our siblings because we knew they'd borrow it. We couldn't stop talking about what we'd spend it on.
Girls, don't let beauty be a blind experiment. Explore Myntra Beauty's virtual try-on. Try full makeup looks with any combinations of products. Myntra Beauty. Discover the you in beauty.
Ease My Trip is your gateway to affordable travel. Get up to 30% off on hotels using promo code EMT30. Save on domestic and international hotels. Grab these exclusive deals and make your trip even more exciting. Book now only on Ease My Trip.
At 9 p.m., my cousin drove us home. The place we were staying in had 6 bedrooms, and I shared one with Jane and some other female cousins. Jane and I shared a bed. That night, we stayed up watching YouTube videos before falling asleep. I woke up suddenly at 4 a.m. I thought I heard someone talking, so I assumed my cousins were still awake. I tried to get up to go to the kitchen for water, but I couldn't move. My legs and arms felt paralyzed. I tried calling out to Jane, but no words would come out. Panic set in. My eyes darted around the room, and that's when I saw it. Near the door stood a dark figure of a man. He was tall, about 6'5", and wore a long coat. My heart raced because I knew no one in my family owned such a coat. The figure started floating, and I broke out in a cold sweat. Then it spoke in a low, chilling voice.
Return me to where you found me.
I was frozen with fear, not understanding what he meant. Suddenly, I felt a pair of hands shaking me, and I woke up gasping. It was Jane. She said I was breathing heavily and sweating. When she asked me what was wrong, I told her it was just a bad dream. I stayed awake watching TikToks until sunrise, trying to shake the feeling. The next day, we went to a museum. I managed to forget about the dream for a while. Jane and I spent the money we found, and everything seemed normal. But that night, it happened again. I woke up to Jane shaking me, asking if I was okay. This time I told her about the dream. She hugged me and tried to comfort me, but I couldn't sleep. The cycle repeated for several nights. Jane grew worried and told my parents about the reoccurring nightmare. My parents decided to take me to a priest for prayers. Afterward, I started sleeping better, and the trip eventually ended. Back home, I was sad to be away from Jane. That night, I went to bed thinking everything would be fine now, but the dream came back, only this time, it was worse. The man was closer to me. I could feel his presence looming over me. Trembling, I asked him why he was tormenting me. His reply made my blood run cold.
Return me to where you found me.
Finally, I understood. He was talking about the money. My heart sank. I'd already spent it. Panicked, I told him the truth. The man began to mumble strange words, and before I could react, he entered my body. A searing pain ripped through me, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My mother sat beside me, looking terrified. She told me she'd heard screaming and rushed to my room, only to find me banging my head against the wall repeatedly until I collapsed, bleeding. I told her everything, the dreams, the man, the money. She took me to therapy, and over time, I started to recover. Since then, I haven't had the dream again, but I've never forgotten the man's words or the lesson he taught me. Some things are better left where you find them.
My name is Sanjana, and this is a true story that happened to me. This incident occurred when I was around 8 years old. We were having a lunch party at my house, and my friends and I were playing in the front yard. One of my friends' dads was supervising us. After a few minutes, a police car pulled up to our house, and an officer asked if we had seen a tall man dressed in all black walking around the neighborhood. We were confused and a little scared. My friend's dad responded, "No, we haven't seen anyone," and the police continued their search. Feeling frightened, we decided to go inside. My house had a street in the backyard, so everyone else left through the back to go home. My family and I stayed inside and looked out the window to see if we could spot the man. After a while, we saw him. He was creeping out from behind the bushes of the house across from us. My dad started taking pictures through the window and sent them to our friends who lived 5 blocks down, where the police were investigating. They showed the police the pictures, and the officers began searching near the area across the street. Meanwhile, I, being a naive 8-year-old, decided to open the door to get a better look at the man. He was covering his face with a hat, so I assumed he couldn't see me if I couldn't see him. My heart raced, and I didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he began sprinting. As he ran, I saw him reaching into his pocket as if to pull something out. I thought it might be a weapon, and I stood there, frozen in fear. Just as he was about to reach the steps in front of my house, my parents noticed me standing at the door. They pulled me inside right in the nick of time. The police found him shortly after and arrested him. To this day, I'm still traumatized, beautiful, and carefully selected. One day, as he handed me a bouquet, he picked out a few flowers and broke them. Confused, I asked him why. He said, "They're not pretty. I get angry when I see ugly things." His expression suddenly turned murderous. I was startled by the change in his face and froze. Then he looked at me and said, "Why? You're pretty. Don't worry. I won't break you." As he said this, he grabbed my shoulder. His hand felt unnaturally strong. I remembered how he often did arm exercises with dumbbells when there weren't any customers in the shop. Suddenly, I started to feel scared of him. Seeing the fear on my face, he leaned in and whispered quietly, "All you have to do is stay pretty without withering. So please smile. You look ugly with that frowning expression." Then he smiled brightly again and handed me a bottle of water. "Your skin needs hydration. Drink water," he said. That's when I realized he was a psychopath. Goosebumps covered my skin, and I decided I needed to end things with him immediately. Before our next date, I called 2 friends, Adam and Jonathan, and asked them to watch me from a distance and to help if anything goes wrong. I explained the situation, and they agreed to help. They waited in their car near Cameron's house, ready to intervene when I gave them the signal. When I arrived at Cameron's doorstep, I rang the doorbell. He told me to come inside, but I refused to enter. He came to the front door, confused, and asked me what was wrong. That's when I told him we needed to break up. For a moment, he seemed surprised and stood silently for about 5 seconds. Then, with a bitter smile, he said, "When you say that, you look so ugly right now." Slowly, he raised his hands and grabbed my neck. His grip was incredibly strong. "You were such a pretty flower," he said. "Why did you suddenly change? I told you, I didn't want to break your neck." He loosened his grip slightly and whispered softly, "I'll give you one last chance. Do you really want to break up with me, or will you be my flower again?" With a trembling voice, I told him we should break up. Suddenly, he screamed, "I'll kill you!" Grabbing my head with both hands, he started breathing heavily, as if mentally preparing to snap my neck. I screamed for help as loud as I could. At that moment, Adam and Jonathan heard my screams. They ran to me, tackled Cameron to the ground, and restrained him while calling the police. Cameron was arrested, and I later learned that he had done the same thing to his ex-girlfriends. One of his ex-girlfriends had her neck snapped, and she barely survived. Cameron had used his wealth to pay her a huge settlement and avoid severe punishment. This time, Cameron went to prison, and I was lucky to escape with my life. 5 years later, I received even more horrifying news. A friend of Cameron's contacted me and told me that after he was released from prison, he killed another woman and was sentenced to life in prison. Apparently, he had found a new girlfriend. One day, they had a fight, and he snapped her neck. Afterward, he called his friend, crying, and said, "I broke a flower." When the police arrived, they found the woman's body in a bathtub full of water, her neck completely broken. Cameron was pouring water over her head and stroking her hair. When I heard that story, I was so shocked that I had to see a psychiatrist for a while. Even now, I often wonder, what would have happened to me if Adam and Jonathan hadn't been there that day? They saved my life.
Under the bed was my dad's 12-gauge shotgun, which he kept there in the Coco bedroom downstairs for various reasons. For context, the Coco bedroom is named after the pet bird we keep in there. The story begins with the day my friends and I decided we wanted to hang out and take a break from our jobs. I asked my dad if it would be okay if we stayed in his cabin, and he allowed it but asked that we be careful. A few days later, we headed out and eventually arrived at the cabin and brought our stuff inside. We immediately got ready to go fishing, and later on we built a campfire, played music on our guitars, told jokes, etc. We were having a great time. Eventually, it was getting late, so we decided to put out the fire and go to bed. Our friend group was 2 guys including myself and 3 girls, and to keep everyone's name private, let's call the other guy A and the girls B, C, and D. A and I slept in the Coco room, and the girls slept in the other bedroom upstairs. While I was sleeping, A woke me up and said that he heard someone talking outside. I told him that he was just tired and that maybe it was just an animal scavenging food we left outside by the campfire. But as I was telling him this, I heard the doorknob on the front door of the cabin start shaking loudly. I got goosebumps up my arms, and I looked at A and he was breathing heavily. I got out my dad's 12-gauge shotgun from under the bed and loaded it and cocked it. A looked at me and said, "Are you going to shoot them?" I replied, "If they are going to hurt us, I might have to." Then I told A to get the large knife from the kitchen, and we walked up to the front door. Just as we were about to open it, the front door swung open and there were 2 skinny men standing there. One of them was older, probably in his 50s, wearing a plain black shirt, and was holding some kind of homemade knife, and the other guy was younger, possibly in his 20s. I couldn't see him completely because he was standing behind the older guy, but I could tell that he was holding some kind of a big weapon. As soon as I saw them, I backed up and pointed the gun at the 2 guys, and A also pointed the knife at them. We sat there, frozen, without saying a single word for what felt like a whole minute. So I spoke and told them, "F off or I will blow your heads off." They both panicked and ran into the woods. After we confirmed that they were really gone, A and I gasped for air as if we hadn't breathed for a long time. I told A to go check on the girls and decided to go outside, still holding my dad's 12-gauge to check around the cabin. I then went inside and told A that I didn't see anything, and he said that the girls were still asleep. A little shocked, I said, "Wow, after all that commotion, they're still sleeping?" A and I decided to tell the girls what happened when they woke up in the morning. Maybe because of the adrenaline and maybe because of the fear, A and I didn't sleep a wink that night. When the girls woke up, we told them what happened, and naturally, they were shocked and scared. We decided to cut our stay at the cabin short and go home that day. When we got home, I told my dad what happened and he scolded me for not calling the police. But he was also glad that we all came back alive and well. My dad then called his friend who was a cop and reported what happened. My dad told me to call A and to come to our house so he could also give a statement about the two men in the incident. It's been 2 years since that incident now. My friend and I still hang out once in a while, but A and I will never forget that incident. One day when we were hanging out, A said to me, "What do you think would happen if your dad's 12 gauge hadn't..."
The bathroom is directly up the stairs from the back door. And the thing is, it's pretty loud when it opens and closes. I immediately froze since obviously I was supposed to be alone. I waited for about 2 minutes. My ears trained in, trying to hear anything. I heard nothing. I figured it was just the wind or maybe my parents were home early. So I turned off the shower, wrapped my towel around myself, and slowly walked down the stairs to check it out. So the stairs to the kitchen are pretty tight and walled in. So it's essentially like walking down a tighter version of a regular stairwell. So I can't see into the kitchen when I walk down. Even though my house is old as shit, and each step on the stairs makes a super loud creak, I still took my time and tried to be as quiet as possible. I probably took about 45 seconds walking down all 12 stairs. So when I get to the second to the last stairs, I take a little breather and compose myself. In my mind, I knew I was being stupid. There obviously wasn't anything in the kitchen. There's no way I wouldn't have heard another noise. And there's no reason for them to still be in the kitchen, even if there were burglars or something in my house. After sort of mentally chastising myself for being such a wuss, I sort of chuckled to myself for being so stupid and just normally walked the last 2 stairs, and I turned the corner into the kitchen. Standing about 2 feet away from me, in the middle of my kitchen, is a man staring straight at me, perfectly still, with a massive smile on his face.